Good day, stand for. Boy, do I have a treat for you all. We have a great special guest. And then also, I just want to start off, just loosen you guys up because you all know I have a huge sense of humor, even though a lot of people think that I'm very serious and I'm just too serious. But Patriots, Yeshua bless you all. And it's a pleasure to have you all here and stand for. And we have a great guest with us today. And I hope you all love that stand for picture right there. God, family, country, and service. We're definitely going to talk about that today. We have a vet who's our guest of honor today. And his name is Alex. Hey, Alex. Before I jump into that, you guys, the reason why I'm wearing a mask right now is because I don't want to get COVID through the internet. Now, I know a lot of you guys think that's absolutely absurd to be wearing your mask in the house. If you think this looks absurd, I'll tell you. You know what even looks more absurd? A person jogging and they're wearing a mask like this. They're riding a bike.
Driving their car by themselves.
They're driving the car by themselves and they're wearing a mask. Yes. And even when they are out riding and they're telling you while they're burning down your building that you better not stand in line when you're voting because you're going to spread COVID. So this is hilarious. But let me take this off. I cannot breathe.
Well, it's like driving in your vehicle with a mask on and you're the only person in there.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. So I hope you all like the Trump hat. And Lacey Johnson, who's running against Ilhan Omar. I love the guy. He's awesome. So, Alex, would you like to introduce yourself to Stand For? And Alex is also in Stand For as a member as well.
Sure. Thank you, Darren. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for reaching out. Same thing with Chris. My name's Alex. I'm the owner of Veritas Tactical and Veritas International. I'm a retired deputy sheriff here from the local county of Orlando, Florida. I've been retired for about 10 years now. I own my business now, work on that, spend time with the family. I have a beautiful wife and two great entertaining kids. As everybody else has been dealing with their kids in their home, you can say entertaining along with other things. A God lover, recognize Jesus Christ as my savior from a long time. I've committed myself to him many a times and been there for me many a time. So one of those things where I always say, we think we have a plan. It's his plan. So we just need to understand that. As far as Veritas Tactical, we're a AR-15 manufacturer, custom rifle company. We've been in existence for about 5 years, a little over 5 years. I've been a gun enthusiast since I was a kid, as far as I can remember, working on these type of weapon systems, through my career in law enforcement and afterwards. Veritas International is our training side, where we do firearms and personal protection training, along with personal security and consulting on that side of it. So,
wow, that is a lot. Wow, that's awesome. Alex, thank you for everything that you do. Now, I always say this. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. So, Alex, with you being a fellow brother in the faith, let's talk about God and country.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think this country needs? Besides the obvious, God, of course, right? But how do you think we should give this country God?
There's a lot of things. It's to really any of these questions. There's multi-pronged answers, multi-pronged solutions. Obviously, bringing God is something that we're going to have to fight for some way, somehow, to get God back in our schools, get God back into people's families. Understanding that he's there for us, that is something that is real. It's I can attest to feeling the Holy Spirit on a couple of occasions on rough things in my life. I can tell you that he was there. I felt the presence, and I know it's for real. And it's a conversation you can almost have with an atheist and trying to make them understand that it is real. And as far as the country, we've gone so far now. Obviously we have our strong conservative groups, but we're becoming somewhat of a minority in a sense. And I would say the younger generations are not really getting into the whole understanding of faith. One of the things, like my kids are still pretty young. We put them in a Catholic school to understand religion, and then put them into a Christian school to understand at a very young age. I can't control what they do later when they become adults, and hopefully they'll continue on the path of faith and understanding the Lord is always there for us. But I think there's a lot of a lack in that in the country itself, is people either not believing in it or not wanting to put their kids through that, or even simply, with today's technology, you can watch mass, or you can watch, a session from any church in your living room if you wanted to. You can study the Bible on your phone. You can have scripture sent to you pretty much on a daily basis. So it's pretty much up to the person to want to do it. But I think we're losing that, and it's been a trend for several years now.
Several years?
Yeah, it's think about it. I mean, we haven't. It's probably been at least a couple decades since the whole thing started, where let's take God out of the classroom. It's been a fight just to keep, simple the word God, a pledge of allegiance, honoring our country has been something that's been attacked, especially over the last 10 years.
Gotcha. So, Alex, just on the more intimate level, how important is God to you?
I can't say a day does not go by where I give the thanks to the Lord every day. I wake up in the morning and I joke to people and say, I wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, I'm breathing. Thank you, Lord." It's that simple. I saw a lot of things in my career, a lot of bad things, and it happened to people, unfortunately. And it made me every day even more thankful for what I have, health-wise, family, work, everything else. Everything's a blessing. So I rely on the Lord, especially, again, having gone through some personal things through my life. And when I say that, you think you have a plan, you think you can plan out your life, and pretty much so the Lord gave you a brain to kind of, put yourself through. You just don't sit there and say, "Okay, guide me," without, blindly, but you do have to understand that it is in his plan. And that's something that if you have the faith and you believe, it will come true. You have to have patience, you have to have faith, and sometimes adversity is part of that. And how you come through it is what people don't understand. They don't believe, or they become non-believers.
Gotcha. And so, Alex, with that being said, the state that our the current condition that our state is in, it's terrible to me. It's just terrible Absolutely. To me, and it's so surreal. It's kind of hard for me to accept that this is the America that I'm living in. Alex, you have done so much for this country. How important is this country to you?
This country, I'll put it to you in the sense of my grandfather and my dad would always put it to me. My parents and my family came from Cuba. They fled communist Cuba in the time of Castro. My father served in a concentration camp because he simply wanted to leave the country because he did not want to be under communist control. My grandfather was threatened, was put at gunpoint many a time. They lost everything. And once they got here and they were able to have a family, be able to have the American dream, things they could never have in their country. And this was pretty much put into me since I was a little kid, from my grandfather telling me the stories and repeating, all these things that happened over there, making me understand how great this country is. Same thing with my father. My father doesn't consider himself a Cuban American. My father considers himself an American with a Cuban culture. And we celebrate our culture just like many people do of their cultures. But first and foremost, we're Americans. And this country means everything. And again, being able to do something for our community is something that was in me for a very young age. And we continue to do things, always trying to serve in one way or another. But the country is going in a direction, and I said this 8 years ago, or actually more than that.
Hey, Alex, I lost audio.
How about now?
There we go.
All right. So again, it's something that the country's becoming unrecognizable. It's unbelievable as to what things that are becoming mainstream. And I think, as much as I hate to quote this guy, Bernie Sanders put it best. things that were seemed radical are now mainstream, and people are accepting these things, to include blasphemy, to include talking negative about Jesus, to include abortion, to include disrespect, simple things of yes sir, no ma'am, respect for elderly, respect for lady. All that stuff is pretty much like almost gone. And in today's youth, you don't see a sense of respect and love for just period the human race, people. Crime is, it's through the roof, and I get it. You're always going to have bad people. Crime is always going to be there, but to the number and degree that it's going to, and it's allowed to happen, and to some places it's not controlled, is again almost hard to believe and hard to understand.
Absolutely, Alex. I couldn't agree with you more. So, with the country, Alex, and you mentioning communism, why do you think the younger generation is basically wanting communism? What do you think is bringing them to that?
It's this thing. It's just like anything. If again, a lot of history is not being read and is being ignored. Everything we're seeing, there's a lot of facts that are being ignored in communism, socialism, and all of these dictatorships that you've seen in history. They all have a path. They want the people to believe that they are the answer. They are the answer to poverty. They are the answer to making everybody fair, everything equal. And they thrive and they dwell in the areas of low income, of poverty levels, of communities where have some adversity, and that's where they thrive because they're promising. Whether the community gets it or not, it doesn't matter. They have that mentality put into them. The latest one you can think of in our time right now is Venezuela. When Hugo Chavez came in, he offered everybody in the poor. He gave them food, gave them money. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you that. Who doesn't want that in those communities? And it puts to a point where you're actually buying votes to a degree. If it gets to that point, if it's not, they're just taking over. In Cuba, again, Castro's regime came over. He told people that he was for the people. Some people believed it. Some fell for it. Some are still waiting 50-something years later for it to be for the people. And everybody that didn't believe in it lost everything. My family lost everything. They took everything. And it wasn't like they were rich people. They had a farm and they were, cultivating their own crops and providing for their own family. All this was taken away because they did not believe in the system. A lot of people were killed. A lot of friends of my family were killed because they didn't believe in communism or because they simply rejected it. And these are things that have happened in history. You can go to communist China, to Russia, to all these places where communism, socialism has come in. It is an example. It's not that it can't happen here. It can happen here. And because the younger generations, for whatever reason or how we've allowed the indoctrination of liberal in our schools from a very young age, and now it's a point where it's catching up and people are finally seeing it. Again, that's another issue to address. How do you address that issue? Has it gone too far, or still can it be fixed? And you have now actually recently with all this social distancing and kids going to school virtually, you're having certain school places that don't want you listening in to what the teacher's saying to your kids. They don't want you understanding what you're actually teaching or what they're saying that may be negative. And again, going back to, for example, if you're a journalist, report the facts. If you're a teacher, teach the facts. Teach history and however it was. Your opinions is your opinion. Keep it to the side. Teach the kids the history or the math or whatever it is. But they're pushing their agendas, their liberal ideas and mentalities on these kids at a very young age to where now you're having kids question it. And it gets to a point where maybe the parents don't want to address it or don't address it at all. And it becomes, this is what we're seeing in today's society.
Alex, something that's, I must point out some parallels here, because if you notice with Nazi Germany, China with Mao, Russia with Stalin, What I'm seeing right now in America, right, is the way to usher in socialism is you have to collapse the economy,
Absolutely. Collapse the
deplete the
economy, take away
resources.
guns. Yep.
Yeah, deplete the resources, make the people starve, and then socialism comes as the answer. Therefore, what's followed behind socialism?
Yep.
Tyranny.
Yep. The book has been written by all of these Marxists and communists. It has been written, and they're just following it, but they don't see that. And it always baffles me is how people cannot see the facts of what's going on and what can happen. The simple phrase of history repeats itself is very true. It happens many a times. How people can vote in these democratic cities for the same leaders for 20, 30, 40 years. Your life is not getting better. What makes you believe that person is going to do something better? This is a community leader in your community, not another state, in your community. And they haven't changed anything, but yet they continue to vote the same person in. I'll give you a good example of, party line voting that nobody's thinking about or doesn't really pay attention. Here in Orange County, back in 2016, there was the election also for the Orange County Sheriff. And there was 3 candidates. 2 candidates ran as independents and 1 candidate ran as a Democrat. The candidate that ran as a Democrat was a convicted felon. Now, he's running for the office of the sheriff of Orange County. He's a convicted felon. He bounces the check to enter for his candidacy. He bounces the check to cover for that check. And he came in less than 1% over the person that won. So the person that won, which was a 30-year law enforcement officer, won by less than 1% to a convicted felon, simply because he was a Democrat. And you're going to tell me that you want someone like that running your community for a police department. And that simply goes to, unfortunately, you got to call it what it is, the ignorance of the voter and not really understanding who you're voting for the job that has to be done. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter really what your party affiliation is. If a person's right for the job and has the right qualities for the job, then it's that case. Now, unfortunately, what we're seeing with Democrats is they're completely gone so far left. There is nobody really in the middle anymore that can do the job as a Democrat. They're very far and few between.
Now, Alex, let's be truthful here. Can you think of any time in history where socialism was ever successful?
No, and that's the same question I asked. The same question I ask people. Give me an example of where it had actually gone. Well, they have socialized medicine here, and that will.
Or they did it wrong, Alex. Or they did it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way to describe socialism as a good thing. People don't understand how it works. They don't understand where it comes from. They think that the money just comes from some leprechaun that's never ending. Giving money that just gives it away. It comes from the hardworking Americans. They go into work every day, pay their taxes, do things the right way. Just like many, immigrants come here and they want to do things the right way. They want to come here, they want to work. They have no problem paying their taxes. They know there's a benefit to all this. But this generation that has a sense of entitlement for what they want everything given to them. And as someone said it good the other day was, you can't blame them to a degree. You got to blame their parents. You got to blame their parents for not instilling, responsibilities, good character, respect, good moral compass, ethics, all that into these kids. And again, they may have learned it at school, but again, as a parent, at the end of the day, it's your job to at least get into that adulthood.
Absolutely. Alex, so you're first. So are you considered first generation?
Yes.
Okay. So with you being first generation, what do Americans actually take for granted in this country?
There's a lot of things to take for granted. And I use my father as an example many a times to many of my friends and to people I speak with. My father came to this country with a 3rd grade education. He came to this country with my mom, my 2 brothers, and nothing else but the clothes on their backs. They already had my aunt who had come probably a year before that and actually went to California because there was a great aunt of mine that had gone to California right before the Castros took over. And they went to California. And again, my father, not having anything, not speaking English, third grade education because he was worked in the farm his whole life to help out and to assist, was able to get a job on the third day of getting into the States. He worked for $1 an hour. And within the first year, he bought his first house. It wasn't a big house. It wasn't anything, but he bought his first house. He bought a vehicle within 6 months, and all he did was work. My dad's 85 years old and still works because he wants to, because he can. And if you talk to him today, he says he owes this country everything. But it's something that he came here, never stopped, and he continued to have what he wanted. He worked hard for it. Americans, as we're born and raised here, we really have everything at our fingertips. You just have to work for it. If you want to be something, if you want to do something, you want to go to a certain school, yes, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes the neighborhood you live in or the community that you live in, but there are things available to do it. You speak the language, number one. We're born speaking English. Except in my case, I was born speaking Spanish. Yeah, my dad, yeah. It's the truth. I mean, you're born speaking English. Everything's in English, so you don't have to worry about having to learn a new language, understanding a completely new culture. Everything's here. Everything, especially now, technology. Everything's available to you. There's resources. There's grants. There's scholarships. You have to put the time and effort into it. I have plenty of friends where they worked their butt off to get what they wanted. Friends of mine that worked 3 and 4 extra, jobs just to be able to get what they wanted for their kids, to provide for their family. You can make it happen, not sit on your behind and expect it to be given to you. That will never happen. It's the same thing as praying and saying, well, I hope this happens. I hope this happens, but you do nothing for it. I prayed, to the Lord on if it's a job or if it's something, I pray and I put my time and effort into it. And obviously it's within what his plan is how it goes. A couple of years ago, my wife was putting in for a new job, and the same thing: apply, pray for it. The right one will come along. It's not what you want exactly; it's the one that's going to come along. And sure enough, that's how it worked. But people tend to sit back and think that things are going to be given to them, that the government owes them everything, and what the government owes us is security, obviously, and be able to have a safe environment for us to thrive in. Keep us from enemies, domestic and abroad, and be able to build on a society that is, contributing for the most part.
So, Alex, we're going to transition into the third question, and I'm pretty sure this is your level of expertise here. Service. What does service mean? But not only what does it mean, what does it look like?
Well, service again, and everybody's different. And you talk to people that say, well, if you're not in the military, it doesn't mean service. If you're not into some type of a branch of the armed forces, you haven't served. We serve in different ways. Just like law enforcement serves his community, a pastor serves his community, a soldier serves his country. Service is something that, again, it is a way for you to open your eyes as to what is out there and find a way how you can help. It doesn't have to be something where you give your entire life to something and not be able to understand to have a family or a life. You give yourself in service in many different ways, and to your community especially. If you want to start somewhere, start small. Start in your community, start in your neighborhood, start in your church, or start in the city, helping out with whatever you can. Be something of help. Try to come up with solutions and not always complaining about, well, this is the problem, that's the problem. I understand that, but you got to help out with solutions. And I think that kind of turns into what's going on with our cities, some of our cities. Our city leaders are doing a disservice to their communities. They're not going in there and trying to come up with real solutions. Get together with your pastor, get together with someone that's in law enforcement, get together with someone that's a leader in the community. And sometimes that is taking the word service in a different direction. You have city leaders and politicians in local, state, and federal government that really get into it for themselves, when really it's the service is for the country to do the best for your people. And they take that into it's a service, but well, look at me, what I do for you, and I should be given this or I should be given that. There's no reason why politicians go into a career as a politician making, let's say 100,000, 200,000 from their previous career and walk away multimillionaires. That is something that is not. It just shouldn't be that way, because obviously there's been things that they've been doing or dealings they've been having to create that kind of money. But service really comes from deep inside. I remember as I was a kid, I always wanted to be in law enforcement. It was something that I wanted to do. It was either that or the military, and I actually chose the law enforcement career. I was actually being given an award at our local Cuban association here. The sheriff that had just won the race at that time approached me and offered me a job. Said, "Hey, I want you to come work for us." And again, I had to put my time and my effort and my testing for it. But that was something that I wanted to go in. That's the direction I went. I felt I enjoyed the job, and it also gave me a totally different perspective on life, on many things that are out there, things that we take for granted, things that we don't understand and others take for granted. And it makes you appreciate life. You see, many different types of deaths that makes you realize, how it is out there. That's the reality of it, and these communities and what they face. And I had a conversation with somebody yesterday saying, I worked in one of what we call one of our hoods here, one of our bad parts of town. And there was a lot of good people. There was a lot of good people in this community, whether for whatever reason, they just felt they had to stay there, couldn't get out. But there was a lot of good people, and you could bank on them to be helpful. And there was a very small percentage that you had to deal with, which was the criminal element. And that's just everywhere, unfortunately.
Awesome. Hey, Alex, do you agree with this? So this is just my guess, okay? Do you believe that if majority of the people actually served their country, that there would be less crime and less poverty, as I should say, and more discipline?
I think that if people actually understood service in one shape or another, not necessarily in law enforcement or military, but understood service, and that they could actually make a difference in a service, I think it would open up people's eyes and a perspective and have the understanding of what it is to love your country and want to be able to do something for it or your community. Service comes from all areas. If you have a problem with something in your community, do something about it, whether it be as a helper to somebody, as an aide, running for an office, becoming a police officer, becoming a deputy, becoming a council person, something that you can get involved. If you really feel that strong about something, then go out and do it. Go out and become a public servant and understand. And then if it's not for you, you'll understand. And it's not for everybody. Just like law enforcement, military, different things are not for everybody. EMTs, firefighters. It takes a special person to do each one of these different jobs. And some people realize it, in their first couple of years of their career. Others realize it midway through their career, and others says, well, I've gone too far. Let me finish it. I really didn't care for it, or it wasn't for me. But again, serve in one way or another. I think absolutely. If it's somebody's a young person that has no idea what they want to do with their life, put 4 years in the military and understand and get some discipline and get some type of career. You can walk away with some type of trade from there. You get all kinds of grants and stuff from the military. It gives you a starting point on your life. Your life's not over because you joined the military, or just that's not your only choice. You have to commit to a few years, and once you get out, if you decide to get out, you've got options. You created options.
Absolutely. Now, Alex, I'm gonna put some comments up on the screen here, and this is from, it just says, Facebook user, Democrats couldn't even say God during a pledge. We are our own enemy. No one goes to the school board meetings. No one wants to run for school boards. So the liberal social elites who know apathy would able them basically would give them control.
So you look at some stuff is it's as simple as when I dealt with a certain community, someone would call you and call a complaint and said, listen, Johnny and his friends are out front doing this or doing that. I said, well, why don't you call us when Johnny's out there doing it? I don't want to be a snitch. Well, it's your community. Take action for it. And just like that comment said about school boards and everything else, we have to show up to these different meetings. We have to show up to the county commission meetings. We have to go to school board meetings. We have to show there is strength in numbers. There are people, I was involved in the Police Benevolent Association, which is basically the union for the sheriff's office for many years. And we were it simply was this, trying to get fairness to the deputies on behalf of the deputies against the administration for fairness. It wasn't trying to get anything special, which is trying to make things were standardized. And we had a membership of about 900 to 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had 25 show up to a meeting, you were lucky. And so it would be hard pressed for me to go somewhere and say, my membership is complaining about this, or we want to fix that, when I've got 25 guys behind me. Or if I show up at 500 and explain to them, it's a difference. There's strength in numbers. And that goes with everything in society, everything in our communities. If we were to stand up as a group, and again, it can be done peacefully. It's been done. It's been done. I think you've seen this quite a bit in the Second Amendment rallies and people protesting for the Second Amendment or in favor of the Second Amendment. You get large gatherings. People sit there. They're passionate about it. They don't start any fights. They don't start anything in these meetings. But their voice is being heard because of their numbers.
Mm.
So it's something where we just have to stand up. And I understand life is busy. You have kids, you have a job, you have different things, but that's part of serving as well. You can serve in attending and getting your community, getting your neighbors involved. It can be something as simple as something's not right in your neighborhood and getting with the county and fighting about it.
Exactly.
And it comes down to that. But people don't want to be seen. I think it's been a movement over the years of people don't want to be seen as, I don't want to complain, because you'll be looked at as you're going to offend somebody. The Burbank shooting with those two terrorists was a perfect example. They had a Muslim family living next door. There was all kinds of signs that something wasn't right, but the neighbors were scared of saying something because they were Muslim. And they didn't want to be pointed at and be picked at and say, well, you're just being, racist or prejudiced. It's one of those things. If it doesn't look right, I don't care what it is, who it is, you got to say something. The same thing comes with, your school boards, your county commissions, your city leaders, government, federal, whatever it may be. You have to stand up.
Absolutely, Alex. Absolutely. Chris, the part about standing up, and just coming from the inner city myself, right? You're absolutely right about when people say, I don't want to snitch. I don't want to be a nuisance. I don't want to be that person that seems like I'm just causing all the drama. But you're absolutely right. I mean, for evil to prevail, it's for a good person to do nothing.
Right.
That's the reason why these liberals are kicking our butt. Because we have become complacent. You said before, we're overwhelmed. We're busy with life, but yet the liberals are kicking our butts, and they are basically going to take our lives from us, our livelihoods from us. If you think COVID should be a prime example of what having the wrong politicians in power, okay, what would happen? I mean,
absolutely.
Learn from this. Yes, absolutely. Yep. We have to learn from this. And this is why I always tell Christians, why not get involved in politics, the school board, run for anything where you can have influence so you can take back the culture. And Alex, you hit the nail on the head, man. We've gotten so comfortable and complacent. We don't, in our comfort zones, we don't want to step out of our comfort zones, and etc. And plus these corporations, they own majority of us.
Yep.
Majority of Americans work for these corporations. We have Alex, a YouTube comment says the beginning of sorrows. That is oh wow,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with that. I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah.
Let me read another comment before we go into the other foundation of Stand For. A great conversation. Even the smallest step of involvement is the ripple in the stream. Talk with your friends, join groups, build your support group. What do you think about that, Alex?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, with today's technology, just like right here, we have access to so many people that are the same mind. You can find people in your community, find people in your neighborhood, and get together. And again, don't feel like it has to be done by one person. It can be done as a group. You're going to find a group that's like-minded, that has the same passion for whatever that topic may be, and attack it from that point and start it. You start a movement, just like you started Stand For with 2 people, and now you've got it to a large membership. Same way, you have to start at some point and get it going.
That's right, brother.
I mean, look at any Facebook page or any Instagram page. You're gaining followers. You're gaining people that have the same ideas or the same mindset. You can do that in your community. Same way.
Bingo. Now, Alex, also too, I just want to say this. I'm so glad that the cops have found their home with the conservatives. I'm so glad that our military has found their home with the conservatives. And of course, this transcends politics. Okay, this is bipartisan. When I look at it this way, okay, is that everyone wants a great life. Everyone wants to come home to their family and basically have food on the table or food in the refrigerator, and they're able to provide for their family. They want sustainability, but they also want to feel safe in their own country.
Right.
With this defund movement, we have the anti-Americanism. We have domestic terrorism here, and then also not only defunding our cops, but they're attacking our cops. When our soldiers come back from serving, they're called baby killers and tyrants and warmongers and etc. And I'm just like, what is going on? Because I am considered a millennial, unfortunately. I'm not happy about that. I'm really not. But the thing is that I'm like, where in the world did all this come from? Why? The generation now and before, my generation, so coddled,
yes,
sheltered from
Absolutely.
reality, from real life, that we have forgotten that there's so many people who have died so that we can have our liberties, our freedom,
Absolutely.
our luxuries, and etc. And there's no appreciation for service.
I always say that if you don't get chills when you hear the national anthem, then you're not an American. It should give you chills. It should be a reminder of the sacrifice that have been made by people. And you have to think beyond the soldier. You have to think of that family. That soldier that died left a family behind, whether it be a wife and kids, a mom and dad, sisters, whatever it may be. They left behind everything. I have friends of mine that were overseas during these last conflicts. They left their families, never knowing they're coming back. You pray they come back. They did. Some did. So if you didn't. And they gave everything. They do it without thinking. Same thing in law enforcement. The officer, the deputy goes out there, puts his uniform on, getting paid under 40 grand a year to go out and take care of other people's lives. And they want to keep the community safe. They want to do what's best. And again, doing it, especially nowadays where you're not being respected, you're not being thanked. Now cops are getting killed for simply showing up to a call. Military people are not being respected because, again, it goes back to what these kids are being told in school. It's almost like a repetition of history of the Vietnam era, of what people were being told, and the hippies believed war was bad. Yes, war is ugly, but it is part of a necessary part to keep us safe. It is part of just the way that every country deals with adversity as far as dealing with terrorists or dealing with things that may come to our shores. We keep it away from us. People don't quite understand that. No one wants anybody to die. Let's put it that way. Whether it be law enforcement, military, whatever, nobody wants anybody to die. But these guys take a risk, guys, and men and women take risk every day, whether it be in law enforcement or the military, to keep this country, for you to be able to have your voice, have your opinion, have the freedom to do what we do day in and day out. And it's not like it's a large number. When you look at law enforcement, for example, there's only 800,000 or so cops in the entire country out of a 321 million population. It's a small number of people that are required to keep pretty much safety and order in some of these communities. And I think I blame the Obama years with the deterioration of law enforcement and the deterioration of the community understanding what law enforcement does. And I feel that it is a lack of leadership from the top down. It's a lack of leadership from the federal government side. When those years, it's a lack of leadership when it comes to these cities and these counties, when they're not informing the community of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Law enforcement, military, it's not an easy job. It's not a fun job sometimes. Sometimes it is. But your job is to keep everyone safe. And again, going back to the community assisting, if the people in the community really want to help and they're able to go ahead and suck it up in that point and says, hey, you know what, we're going to stand up for our community. We're going to be able to tell the law enforcement, hey, this guy is doing this, that guy is doing that, or this person is selling drugs in my neighborhood at this time, at this location, and be part of that proactiveness that law enforcement has to do.
Yes.
But today and right now, cops they can't do their jobs. Their hands are tied. And a lot of the administrations, there's very few administrations that will back them up because the sheriff or the chief or whoever it be is worried about getting elected or staying in his job. It's not an easy job. But again, it goes back to them not really communicating well with the city leaders, city community leaders not doing their part to inform their community. I encourage anybody that has an ill will, and I don't think I'll find it in this group, but anybody that has an ill will towards military, law enforcement, take a ride along, take a tour with someone, go into it, do some force on force training, some reactionary training, and see how would you do. Would you get out of bed every day, again, for 40,000 or less in some places, knowing that may be your last day? You put on a uniform, you kiss your kids goodbye, you kiss your wife goodbye, and you go out and do a job that is not respected, is not cared for, and you're trying to help people. And to this day, we've had 215 officers killed for this year alone. And guys and girls still go out there and protect their communities. And when they're wondering why people don't want to get into the job anymore, you're seeing it. You're seeing it live, really. And law enforcement, same. Military is the same. You're getting less and less people. What's happening now is you're getting less of standards on your applicants because they need more people. So they lower their standards. And then, unfortunately, in everything, if you do that, you start getting that one bad apple or two bad apples that you really didn't need in the first place. And again, there are things in place for that. Unfortunately, they may find out later down in their career they shouldn't have been there. But when it comes to this whole thing about defunding the police, take away money from budgets, the reform of de-escalation, escalation, those things are in place. They've been in place. I was given two policy manuals about, yay big when I got in, and it's all the do not do's. And part of that, obviously, was our de-escalation and escalation. We constantly had training. And some of these departments don't have budgets for training. And that's where they need more money. Don't take away money from them. You need more cops. I can tell you just about every single department in this country is running with less manpower than what they need. The communities continue to grow. The departments don't. So how do you figure that one out? So there's a lot of, like I said, it's a multi-pronged problem with a multi-pronged solution. But if these leaders do not take part into it, in which they are part of the problem, it's only going to get worse. And thank goodness for President Trump and his love and affection for first responders, for the military, and taking care of these guys. I still have friends on the force that were helping out with all of the campaigns in 2016s. And they said that every time he stopped, he made it a point to go to them and thank them for their service, shake their hands, take a little time to talk to them. No other president had done that. None of the president took the time. He waved or whatnot, and that was about it. And President Trump has taken a true stand on that. And I can go on many of his accomplishments to include the love for this country. That's one of the things that I tell people. I don't care what he says, how he says it. He may not be the most polished person out there. He has a love for the country.
Yes.
He has a love for America, and what he's doing is for us, for the people. It's not for other governments. It's not for, begging and bowing to other governments and giving stuff away to other. He's doing what's best for us, for this country.
That's right. That's right. And, I just want to apologize to everyone in Stand For right now. It says here on the check mark that we were streaming live into Stand For, but come to find out, Alex, we weren't. So I just had to basically just patch us into Stand For when you're just telling us about importance of service. So, Alex, with all that being said, I believe this is one of the most critical components. And what's irreplaceable is the family. How important is the family to America?
A family is something that you have to have. It's a support system through thick and thin, whether it's something to do with work, whether it's something to do with your health, financial, whatever it may be. Your family having a support system, and family doesn't always have to be blood. I have many friends that I call brothers and sisters that I would consider a family of sort of when a certain time arises that you need. But family there's an importance of family. I think that's been lost too over the years with many things, with technology, with time, people not having the patience to deal with their kids, wanting social media and iPads and things to take care of the kid while they do their things. And again, life is busy. I understand that. I get it. But we have to have that importance. And again, it comes down to being thankful for what you have. When we had our kids, yes, I wanted a boy. I can't lie. But it was my biggest thing was healthy. Are they healthy? They're such a blessing. And go from there. And so I think we lose a lot of that in today. Unfortunately, in certain communities, a lot of single parents, and that's being pushed. And you have to give kudos to those single parents out there that are doing an incredible job in raising kids, working 2 and 3 jobs to do what's best for their kids. It's something that again is a must, and all these kids understand that, especially from a one-parent family, that what their parents are sacrificing for them. But you have to have family. I've had an incredible family. I have an incredible set of parents. I'm so blessed to have them as my parents. My wife, my kids, my in-laws, everybody around us, the nucleus that we have, supportive in every different way that you may need. And that is important. You have to have that. And the things that you do in life, you do them for your family. You do it to move forward. And I had the example of my father and my grandfather. My dad worked pretty much day and night to be able to provide for the family, working at night for health benefits, working during the day just to be able to have things in life and have extras, and let my mom stay at home and raise us pretty much. So the family nucleus, it was very big part of me growing up, and then I instill it today. It's an importance, and I see it deteriorating in this country, unfortunately.
So here's some great comments coming in from YouTube. And also, too, for everyone who's out there watching, if you have any questions for Alex or I, feel free to put them in text. Either you're on Facebook or YouTube. So, Alex, here's some comments. I feel the media has a strong hold on this world. Good is struggling to survive. Although I feel God is always in control, he's ahead of the devil. Then we have another YouTube comment. 40K? Come on, man. Same. Tony G said, I totally understand where he's coming from. I'm retired from the FD. Every day I left my family, I knew. People are so lazy nowadays. They don't want to take time to read and research. It's all about reading the headlines for them and accepting it as truth. And then a comment from Facebook. Absolutely too many distractions today. We need to set aside time for family. I agree with all those comments. And Alex, I agree with everything that you said, because now when I go to my friends, well, I shouldn't say my friend's house because it's not them, but when I go to visit other people, I notice they're not playing with their kids. I notice that the kids are on their cell phone. They're playing their whatever new little game thingy, whatever you want to call them. I don't play games. I just don't. Or
Yep.
they're on the game console, right?
Yep.
They're not outside. They're not riding bikes.
Well, they're letting that be the babysitters. Basically.
Right. They're not being kids anymore.
Yeah.
And
We
the
give our
thing is-
kids.
Yeah.
We monitor. Our kids are allowed 1 hour to be on their iPads. We limit what they can have, and that's it. They don't need any more than that. We have a playground outside. You can go out and play. You can ride your bikes. We interact with them. We play whatever it may be. My son is 8. Who's wanted a Nintendo Switch. He's not going to get it. I don't feel that there's anything for them to really have. There's plenty of things for them to do. Coming from my generation, when I grew up, there wasn't any of that stuff. And we got along just fine. We went outside, we played ball, we played basketball, we played baseball. You rode our bikes. Those are things that keep you entertained. And today, again, technology, and then some of the stuff the kids are actually seeing, and some of these programs on YouTube that these kids are seeing, which parents seem to be okay with, and what they're learning, attitudes that they're learning, things that again are being accepted, that you look at today and go, well, I wouldn't let my kids see that. But parents are letting them do it because it keeps that kid entertained and not in their hair.
Hey, Alex, I got some heat for you, brother.
Oh boy.
Okay, this is gonna be a fastball, man, and it has some skunk on it. Listen to this comment. This is from ND Sean 45 from YouTube. One thing that is deteriorating with the family is what kind of things are being called a family today.
Okay.
Wow. Do you want to touch on that?
Look, it's one of those things where, I'll bring it up from when you talked about having a mask on, and we said, some people, are on this whole thing where you must wear a mask, and you wear a mask because, I feel you should have a mask. Look, the family, and again, if you're a Christian and however you feel, that's up to you. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. In my perspective, it's a husband and wife with kids. Whether that's a man and a woman in your case, it doesn't matter to me. It's up to you how you raise a kid. The kids need to be raised obviously with love, understanding, respect, and understanding the Lord, and present them to the Lord. Now, if you're a same gender family, that's your thing. That is not, again, don't put it on me. Don't make me to have to understand it or to force it on me. I don't take that as something that I have to make a decision on. I make a decision on my life. I feel what is important for me in my life and my family. And for someone out there who's of the 5, 6, 7 designations that are out there, that's your life. I mean, God loves everybody. It's one of those things where if you're not accepted in your group or your community, that's something that you might want to look at and change. But for me, as being raised by my family, always seeing, to me, it's marriage is between a man and a woman, but that's just my opinion, and that's everybody's entitled to their opinion and their feelings, and but I'm not going to have my feelings or my way of being changed just because it's accepted somewhere else or because someone wants it to be that way.
Gotcha. And I just do have to say, as a devout Christian and a conservative Christian, I do believe the true family design is a male and female raising their children. And I do have to say that is leading to the deterioration of America and also the culture, is that it's the attack on the so-called patriarchal system, or the cisgender, these liberal euphemisms.
Well, I get so angry having for years now, a couple of years, my kids watching Disney Family or ABC Family, and they put that in there constantly. Why should I have to explain to my 5, 6, 7-year-old about a gay couple on TV on a family show? Again, if you're an adult and that's what you want to do, that's fine. Why do you have to, subject kids to that at such an early age and be okay?
But it's child. But Alex, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's child abuse. Okay.
Mhm.
According to the state, if you're teaching your kid conservative values and you want your kid to stick to conservative values, they label it child abuse. But it's not child abuse that you're actually subjecting kids to pedophilia, talking about sexual acts in school and etc. when they're in third grade. That's not
Yep.
child abuse.
Exactly.
That's not pedophilia. This
Exactly.
is
Oh,
asinine.
look at California. Look where they just went, where they lowered the the penalties
Yeah.
for
Oh my
having
God.
sex with a minor under 10.
Oh
Again,
yeah,
these
yeah,
are
yeah,
things
yeah.
they're becoming accepted. This whole trend that's been here lately about how pedophilia should be looked at as a disease and not as a crime. Um, and again, I'm pretty harsh and pretty old school. There's only one place for a pedophile, and it's definitely not in society. Um, but again, that whole thing with same-sex marriages and all that, not my cup of tea. Not something that I care for. My values are a man and a woman. You have kids, you raise them, you teach them, and if that's for you, that's fine. I'm not going to sit there and judge you for it. Just don't force it on me. If we look at the numbers, I think it's an 8% or less than 8% of the entire society is gay or LGBTQ and whatever it may be. But yet they want to force their views on the majority of people. And again, it's accepted. That's fine. But when they push it on you and they make you almost to the point where, just like everything else the liberals are doing, they push it on you. And if you don't accept it and you don't actually announce
You're
it,
hateful.
you're
You're hateful.
exactly.
You're a bigot. You're hetero. I mean, you're homophobic, and etc. And I used to tell the
And to
person, well,
touch,
go ahead, Alex.
no, to touch on that point where the media, the comment about the media, they're absolutely right. The media is the one that's really pushing everything, and people unfortunately are following it. They don't do their research. They don't look into something, especially with technology where it is. You can research stuff very easily, but the media pushes the focus. And if we want to dive into this a little bit, the whole BLM and Tifa and all these different groups,
Yeah, let's talk about that.
That are being pushed. There's money being pushed to them, obviously by the playmakers, and some of these playmakers are also involved with media groups. So not only do they control the groups and their agenda, but it's actually portrayed or pushed in the media as to what they're doing. We're stuck in the middle, unfortunately, to the point where we don't want either one. If you're smart enough and you're able to decipher what's going on and be able to read up and look at other options out there besides CNN or MSNBC or one specific channel, you'll see that the information is out there. It comes down to all these incidents that have happened over the last few months. Any shooting that has come up, any incident that's come up, give it a few days, give it a week or so until you see the real facts come out. It is really simple for a headline to come out and make it sound 10 times worse than what it really was,
Exactly.
or make it sound the opposite of what it was. And it's almost like being like the media is making people stupid, making people to the point where if the media says it, it's gospel. We've gotten away from true journalism years ago.
Yes.
Again, your job as a reporter is to report the news, report the facts.
Exactly.
If you don't know what the facts are, don't make it up. I don't care for your opinion. I want to know what the facts are. And a good friend of mine, Marty's always saying, listen, when you see a shooting or an incident with police, wait till the actual press conference comes out and they give you the details about it. Don't go by what the media goes. Don't go by those snippets on Facebook. Don't go by what they put on Instagram or YouTube. Wait for the facts to come out and then determine what it may be. You're looking at all these athletes and all of these celebrities that are putting names on their jerseys of convicted felons,
Exactly.
of convicted rapists, of people that they feel were somebody in the community. But if you do your research and you find out who they really were, they're actually, giving a platform to these criminals. And I can go down a list of every case that's happened and understand something that they came in contact with law enforcement of something they did.
Exactly.
It was a criminal activity that was going on, and they came in contact with them. It wasn't they picked out because they were black. And again, every case can be broken down into what really happened, what were the facts of it, And if the cop was wrong, he was wrong, and he was being dealt with or will be dealt with. But again, the media is a huge problem, and how it is a double standard for conservatives. And obviously, Democrats can do whatever they want, say whatever they want, give whatever excuse they want, and it's okay. It gets no coverage. Just like all the coverage of last week was on the convention and what was said or wasn't said. And there was 3 incidents where over 100 and something children were recovered from human trafficking locations. None of that was ever brought up in any of these news stations. It was a blurb, and that was it. And again, a huge problem in our society is human trafficking, but they don't want to address it.
Exactly.
All they want to address is how hateful and how racist and defund the police and what they're doing wrong, and how things are so bad because conservatives want to bring order into things, and yet they're okay with riots, looters, all kinds of crime being committed, and they don't say anything about it.
That's right. And you know what, Alice, I just want to say this. So while we're talking about the family part, is that we need our men back into position, fathers, because there's a huge correlation between crime and incarceration and not having a father in the kid's life. It's absolutely imperative. I cannot stress it enough. When kids need a father, okay, they need a father. They need someone to look up to. They need discipline. They need direction. They need that firmness. They need that man that can bring these manly attributes.
Absolutely.
They can teach you these mannerisms of what a man does and how a man talks to a woman, how a man treats himself, carries himself, and how he's concerned about self-preservation, how he's the protector, he's the provider, and etc. And Absolutely. We have to get back to that. And that's the reason why we have such a wayward generation right now, because
you say that and it's looked at as sexist.
Is that I was just about to touch upon that. Now we have a radical feminist movement, radical homosexual movement, and it's all attacking heterosexuality, the nuclear family. Then majority of these kids who are out rioting, they're fatherless. They're Obama generation. They have been indoctrinated for the last 2 decades, right? And then also too, Alex, just to piggyback on the point that you made previously, when we're talking about God. A lot of these cities that are controlled by these Democrats, some of them have been controlled by Democrats for 80 years straight. Exactly. And they continue to keep voting for these policies that destroys the family, that actually incentivizes you to keep the father out of the home, because if you get married, you can get taken off of welfare, and therefore you lose your livelihood. And I'm so sick of that trap, Alex. I'm so sick of that trap.
It's one of those things where, many times I would go to a domestic violence call, and, you can clearly see where the husband or boyfriend or whatever beat the wife or girlfriend. But when the cuffs came on, the realization to that female was, you're now taking this man out of her life who was the provider or who was whatever. And then all of a sudden they turned against you because, although they were getting beat, they wanted, the realization of that. That's their meal ticket, basically. And we have to get away from that. If you're bad, obviously there's not a man if he's hitting a woman. But in these cases where that's seem okay, and in society and some of these communities, it's acceptable, or they don't want to say anything, the man has to be held accountable for his actions, but he also has to be there to be able to do it.
Oh, no. I agree with you 100%. But Alex, also too, let's talk about something that a lot of people really do not talk about. I don't like that there's too much government overreach into civil matters, civil issues, especially about how you're going to raise your child. I don't like how parents actually have to fight against the school system about what their child is being taught, how they're teaching their child there's more than 2 genders and you can be whatever sex you want to be. They have drag queen story time and all this kind of stuff. And if you were to basically keep your kid out of school, you're abusing your kid and you can be fined, and your kid can pick whatever gender you want to be, and you better not stand in the way because you can go to jail. Since when? It's ever been the government's job to tell us what to do? That's what I
Exactly.
don't get, Alex.
It goes back to the teacher. You need to teach the subject, and that's it. Administrators need to be able to make sure that the kids have a safe place to go to school, that they have what they need to accomplish the school year, but not to be able to indoctrinate my kids into what they feel they have to learn. History is history, and history is written every day, and which is what they need to report on or they need to teach in classes, instead of trying to teach of what is okay for Johnny to be a different sex or to wear dresses. And again, you're finding parents that are okay with this, and there lies the problem, into where it's accepted by some parents, some liberal parents, or they're okay with these types of forms of expression, if you want to call it. And sometimes the kids are so young, they don't really know what the expression is. They don't really know what they're doing, but they're being pushed in a direction by either a teacher or a parent, and it's okay. And if you say something, like we said, you're all of a sudden you're labeled. You're labeled as you're sexist, you're anti-gay, you're anti-this. No, it's a child. That child has no idea which way they want to go.
Exactly.
Let them be. But that should be something, again, the school should have no business in telling you how your kids should be, what they need to be learned. They need to learn math, science, history, the things that that need to be taught to them, and not about how to be a binary or what binary means, and all these questions that come up. That it really is insane.
So, Alex, let's draw some. I want to go over some parallels with you historically. So, when you think back to a plantation, right? Remember that kid wasn't allowed to learn. Neither were the parents. Everything was controlled. You get your provisions. You get out of line. There's violence to basically keep you in check. Okay, your family belongs to us. Your family belongs to that slave master. And you guys, this is so indicative of today. When you think about a plantation, that is the epitome of socialism. I'm not kidding. That is the epitome of socialism. And a lot of people do not tie these parallels together. When you look at socialism, they attack your family. When you look at socialism, they attack your faith, your religion. They wish to tear you down from the inside out. And that's how you usher in socialism. You strip the people of their God, you take their hope, you take their liberty, you take their freedom. You get rid of, as I said before, you deplete the resources, so that the only option they have is to look to you. Yep, they look to you. It's so indicative.
The BLM is not about race.
Exactly.
BLM is not about Black Lives Matter.
Marxism.
It's about control.
Exactly.
Antifa is not about anti-fascism or anything. It's about control. And that is the message that's pushed through their financial bearers that give them the money for it. That is the what they believe in. It's not about race, and we can get into a whole nother session about the whole Black Lives Matter movement and all that. But again, it comes down to all of these things is about control. They want to control what you think. They want to control what you say. They want to control what you eat. They want to control what kind of straws you have. All these things, again, are my choice. And what people understand is they're giving up freedoms by voting some of these idiots into politics that want to control that, but yet they don't see it that way. They see it as voting for a party that is going to do what's best for them, which hasn't done anything for them as long as they've been around.
Exactly. And they're doing it again, Alex. The Democratic Party, they're forming a new military arm. Antifa, Black Lives Matter. They are forming a new military arm like they did with the KKK. Terrorism.
It's actually sometimes it's agonizing and hard to wrap your head around that people are okay with that, or they can think that and don't want to hear the facts. I enjoy talking about politics with other friends that are not in conservatives or whatnot, because I want to hear their side.
Right.
Give me the facts. Give me the facts that make you think that way. And for the most part, they can't. They can't give me facts.
Exactly.
They can't give me an example as to why it is good. And it ends up being almost a shouting match or something, which, again, it's not my point. I'm not looking to argue with you. I want to see your side. Just like I will tell you my facts of what I feel and how I feel this way, and what I have to present to you why I feel the way I do or believe the way I do. But they can't do the same. And what we're seeing is this movement You can't talk to these millennials or anybody and tell them the facts. BLM ignores the facts day in and day out. Again, they're being used. They don't even know it.
Exactly.
Antifa's being used. They don't even know it. But again, like I said, we could talk all night about that. It's just something that people ignore the facts. It's almost an ignorance level that is unbelievable, to that point where people are willing to almost give it up. Well, they may realize it later, maybe they won't. But unfortunately, in these cities where you see these Democrats cities run over and over and over again, obviously they haven't learned their lesson.
Alex, that is amazing. Well, I just want to just say this, Alex. Thank you for actually coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It was so great to definitely learn from you, and just thank you for everything you have done for this country. Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure we all are fully appreciative of your dedication, your efforts, your contributions, I should say, and your loyalty. And thank you for being a patriot. But even more important than that, thank you for being a brother in the faith. That is amazing.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, appreciate
active father. Yeah, active father, brother. Kudos to you, my man. So, Alex, do you have anything you would like to leave our guests? I should say our audience with.
Unfortunately, with everything going on, we sometimes get lost in everything that's on the media. Put your faith in the Lord. Pray about it. There's a bright side to it. I have a strong feeling we are going to prevail again in this election. But again, one thing that we always tell everybody is prepare yourselves, train yourselves, understand that with the attacks on law enforcement, there might be a chance where you're going to have to protect yourself. Law enforcement, unfortunately, can't be everywhere. And lately, it seems like they really can't be everywhere. And we stress it through our courses. We stress it to the community, our Second Amendment community. You should protect yourself. You have to be your own first responder. And that is a pretty big circle to get into, whether it be firearms training, self-defense training, hand-to-hand combatives training, first aid, trauma, gunshot wound training. These are all things that you should look into, prepare yourself for it. The way I put it to all our students is you can buy a weapon, you can train, you can get everything that you may need, prepare yourself. If nothing ever happens, you've lost nothing. If something does happen and you're not prepared, you can lose everything, including your life. So get out there and train, get out there and be prepared. Obviously, be aware, be mindful of what's going on around your communities. And again, put the faith in the Lord, pray about it. And, we stand together as a nation. If we stand together in numbers, we will prevail.
Amen, my brother. Amen. Alex, thank you for being on. Stand for, thank you for watching. The YouTube community, thank you for watching. And then also on the main Facebook page, thank you all for watching. Thank you for your time. We are fully appreciative. Blessings from Stand For and also from Alex from Veritas Tactical. You guys have a great evening. Yeshua bless you all.
Thanks, everyone.